Out of nowhere, Ubisoft confirmed Assassin's Creed Infinity, the big game we will get after Valhalla, with both the Odyssey team and Ubisoft Montreal behind Origins and Valhalla coming together to work on this title. And maybe you already saw my first video on the announcement, discussing everything we know and how I think the potential is really there, like having multiple settings in one game and expanding that over time seems like a really natural evolution over the last 3 games. But yeah, the overall narrative is really focused on the live service element, which I get is turning a lot of people off. And I think there are totally reasons to be worried, but these might not be the things that you are worried about right now. I will go over everything in this video. We actually got some extra info from Jason Schreier on Twitter as well. So this stuff I haven't discussed in my previous content. So really a ton to go over in this Sunday Jorgameshow. A like on the video would of course really help me out. And let's go. Ubisoft is reportedly shaking up Assassin's Creed with new live service game. Assassin's Creed Infinity sounds exhausting, says GameSpot. And IGN made this video saying Assassin's Creed takes on Fortnite. And then I get, when reading those articles and watching those videos, that you are like, I don't want a multiplayer only Assassin's Creed. Well, while live service titles are usually multiplayer only, this doesn't mean that Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to be as well. The day after the news broke, Jason Schreier followed up his reporting saying that there are a lot of really bad takes out there, so I want to reiterate. Assassin's Creed Infinity being a live service platform doesn't mean it's Destiny or Anthem. There will likely still be solo narrative Assassin's Creed stuff, it will just be part of Infinity. We have Murmuration on Twitter chime in too, saying that he heard from a friend who works at Ubisoft Quebec that single player campaigns aren't going anywhere, with Jason replying, yup. And as said in my announcement video as well, they would be stupid to do a full 180 on what an Assassin's Creed game is. Valhalla and Odyssey made a ton of money, no way they will abandon that structure completely. And also, let's not forget that the recent Assassin's Creed games are already live services. You will receive updates from live titles such as Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Rainbow Six Siege on their upcoming content. This is what Ubisoft noted in their blog post about the Ubisoft Forward stream, where we got a trailer revealing year 2 content. Like, Assassin's Creed is already a live service game. I think people are jumping to conclusions like too fast, because the only thing we know about the game is that Infinity will contain multiple settings, with room to expand to others in months and years following its debut. Jason at Bloomberg then continues saying that individual games on the platform might look and feel different, but they will all be connected. So we're basically looking at a platform for everything Assassin's Creed, where we as the player can go to different worlds instead of only staying in one time period and setting. Okay, this might sound weird, but I think a good comparison might actually be Disney Infinity, and not only because of the name, but also because of the structure. You bought a starter pack which then included 3 worlds and some characters, but then you could choose to buy completely new worlds if you wanted. That all came with new stories. We had expansions for Marvel heroes, new Star Wars adventures. Like, that is how the game evolved over the years and got more and more content. I think Infinity will be similar. It launches with multiple settings already, and then we get more worlds and time periods added over time. I mean, you could argue that Valhalla is already a simple version of this in a way. The base game has Norway, Finland, England, and some mythical worlds. If you want to travel to Ireland, well, you have to buy that DLC. If you want to travel to Francia, you have to pay extra as well. And we will likely have to pay more for those new mythical worlds via a year 2 style season pass too. So I really think a simple way of looking at Assassin's Creed Infinity is Valhalla's base game and post-launch, but then we're getting completely new settings over time with maybe new characters, instead of DLC only inspired by the Viking era. But yeah, this sounds very ambitious, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons to be skeptical about this game. Not only do they have to connect it all narratively, which they of course have kinda done before, but now it's all part of one game instead of multiple separate ones. And if you stick with one setting, you can just reuse a lot of assets and place the same soldiers in different camps in the world. It will cost way more resources to make multiple settings, also post-launch, than iterate on one you already have. So it's going to be a big undertaking also in terms of research to make sure every setting and time period feels legit. They cannot just focus on one anymore and really try and nail that. And that's why I think we will see them bring back some worlds and settings from previous games, because work for that has already been done. I think it's a win-win, because I would be excited to revisit some of those locations in a completely new AC with those improvements and next-gen graphics. But yeah, how is it going to work in terms of gameplay? If they have multiple settings, let's say we get a new story in the world of Black Flag. So I can use a gun there, collect a ton of gear. I will likely not be able to use that weapon in an Agent China setting that they might add as well, right? So how do you make sure that there's an overarching progression system where something I do in a potential Japan world matters when I go back and explore Egypt again? In Valhalla, that's simple. You're playing Eivor, you have the same character, but how does it work if we jump to different time periods? And just the basic gameplay. Will every time period play like the newer games, or do we get some of the older experiences too? Another reason to be worried is that Ubisoft Montreal and Quebec haven't worked together on this skill before. Like, they had their own titles to worry about, and they clearly have some different visions for the game. And Jason actually notes in his article that there has been a long rivalry between the two studios that has at times turned acrimonious, according to people familiar with the matter. So this shift may cause some headaches. On paper, this collab should be amazing, mashing the best elements from Valhalla and Odyssey together, but we will have to wait and see if it really works out like that. Also, a lot of directors who worked on Valhalla have left. Of course, Ashraf Ismail, the creative director on Black Flag Origins and Valhalla, was fired last year. Darby, the narrative director, left, and Eric, the game director, left as well to work at EA. In addition to the Me Too scandal and the reorganization, Ubisoft is facing new competition from other video game companies in Montreal. And some employees, tired of working on massive productions, balked at the idea of Assassin's Creed Infinity, which may be the most ambitious one yet. Like, really, Ubisoft's work culture might be the biggest enemy, because even though they made some changes, seems like they still have a long way to go to fix all the things happening behind the scenes. I think this tweet from Jason is also very interesting. Instead of a new game every fall, there will be one platform that is constantly evolving and expanding with new content. And I think that's going to be the biggest change if Assassin's Creed Infinity is successful. That instead of a big new title like Odyssey or Origins, we get that content added to this one platform instead. And that really has its pros and cons. A con could be, will we still see the evolution that we now see from game to game? Or will it all feel samey? Like, from Origins to Odyssey, totally felt like sort of refresh. Odyssey plays completely different than Origins. Will we still have it if it's just one platform that gets expanded over time? One of the pros can be that not everything has to be a big open world. Like, some settings maybe are not suited for a big open world, but because they can just add like random side stories, they could get weirder maybe, and maybe we could explore regions or time periods that would have never made sense before, and again, maybe go back to older time periods. I think that would be, or like periods we already explored. I think that would be really, really cool. In a perfect world, I really think that Infinity is like the RPG platform, so it's, again, just Valhalla. Instead of 2 years of content, it will just continue, and maybe at one point they will have like Infinity 2 or whatever, but that's far in the future. And next to that, we have like remakes of the older games. Ubisoft must be looking at Resident Evil remakes and seeing we can do that with the older Assassin's Creed games as well. And in that, like, that way you can have both the new fans of like the Odyssey, Valhalla, and Origins fans happy with Infinity. And then you can also have like people who prefer the older style still be happy because they get to revisit Altair story with like better graphics, but still that same sort of, yeah, third-person action gameplay. I think that would be a perfect world, but we will see if we ever go there. And of course, you can drop a question in the comments under a Sunday video, and then I might answer it in the next Sunday video. You can ask questions about anything, by the way, but we'll be picking an Assassin's Creed question right now because it fits the video. Justine Steve Lago says, preferred setting for the next Assassin's Creed game. I always say Japan, Asia, especially with Ghost of Tsushima now. I think they really showed that it would be awesome to have an Assassin's Creed style game. I mean, it is an Assassin's Creed style game, but it's still different. So I want Assassin's Creed to explore that period as well. And that's what I think is also going to be exciting about the possibilities of Infinity. Like, maybe you would not be down for Japan or something. Well, we will now have multiple settings. First, you would have to wait 2 more years before a new game gets announced, and then fingers crossed that you like the setting that they were going for with that. While with Infinity, maybe you don't like one of the settings they have at launch, but you like the other 2, and then post-launch we will get even more. Like, again, it sounds super ambitious, but I think the possibilities are great. And the point of this video was really to not jump to conclusions. Like, we don't really know anything, and they're still very early in development. So the things we're hearing now, maybe they figure out, dude, like more than 3 settings in the first year, that's a huge undertaking. We're gonna stick with 2 and then maybe add 1 in a few months, and maybe add a new setting every year instead of like having them every few months. Like, I can totally see that. So they're still really early. I think just like riding it up immediately is not the best way to do. I just hope that it's more polished. Like, I really think that that's, looking at Valhalla right now, I want this next game to take as much time as they need. Make sure there are not as many bugs or progression issues that then take like a few months to fix. I really hope they get that sorted. That's what I think is like a more logical reason to be kind of worried. Hey, will they do that this time? But yeah, looking at the games before that, they totally did. So I'm of course optimistic. I think this sounds awesome, but they really have to pull it off. And it will be interesting. Like, I think of the trailer already in my head. Multiple assassins running around, different time periods in one trailer for one game. It could be nuts. It could be nuts. When we know more about it, I will of course let you know here. Subscribe for more on Assassin's Creed and Valhalla content, of course. Let's focus on like Siege of Paris and the Valhalla DLC right now. A like on the video would really help me out. You can check my first video on the announcement with some other details and things we learned by clicking on the screen. For now, I will speak to you next time, and goodbye.